The alarm's going off, man. Stop hitting snooze. I need you. If you're looking to feel like warm and fuzzy inside, like I'm your guy, so they're in my top 20 EHL teams for sure. There's emotion, there's hatred. This is not like a very friendly series. It's like SpongeBob when he's got like the napkin and like the potato chip. Like that's how I feel. Listen, Colson, I didn't have fun. Everything in my body hurts right now. The team that has the lead in the second period is just not going to win that game. There's no need for air quotes. He's tardy all the time. It's the American thing to do. I was alive, just not buried. No, don't get pucks deep. Hang on to the puck. Pass the puck. Shoot the puck. Are we live? Are we live? We're having a good time. JKP, baby. JKP.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the Summer Coaches Series sessions here of the E Show podcast. We are back down south with head coach of the New Jersey 87s, Matthew Kiernan. Thank you for being here, Matty.
Jake, thanks for having me. Excited to be on this podcast after all the years of watching it.
It's funny, Neil asked me like this the moment the season ended, who are you most excited for? And I was like, well, Bill Zandaboni just won the championship, so that's a big one. But I've never interviewed Matty Kiernan in a forum like this before, so I gotta say it's probably Matt Kiernan.
Yeah, last time I did an interview like this, we were still playing in Middletown Sports Complex, which feels like a lifetime ago.
So it's perfect. It's well overdue. And you've been behind the bench for a long time for the New Jersey 87s program, but for the first time this past season as head coach of the EHL level. Been on the operations side for a long time, but still that figure on the coaching staff. So was it a seamless transition for you, or was there any kind of mental perspective shifts that you had to go through to take on that role of head coach?
It was seamless for me because I had rejoined the staff as a coach last year around December. And I was still extremely involved on the coaching side of our 16s and 18 teams. So while I had not been traveling with the EHL team, I'd been around for practices for the whole time, been involved with the staff for the whole time, was really involved with our youth program on the ice, every single night, running practices, traveling to games, things like that. So last year, when it looked like I was going to transition back to hockey, like the coaching side of hockey full time, I just dove right in December and obviously was part of the run to the championship. So that part was seamless. What was the only weird thing for me is Adam and I had built this together, had started together. So probably, either in person or on the phone about the team on a daily basis multiple times, and you don't have that person that you've developed that hockey relationship with. The good news for us is Cam and Darius were a big part of our staff, had been around with us for 3 to 4 years at that point in time. So I had great resources in them. So yeah, I guess the long answer to it was seamless.
And from your perspective, having coached that younger level for a while as well, are there any big focuses that are different here at the junior level versus that youth level of hockey?
I'll say this: it gives you perspective. It gives you perspective, and it forces you out of the mindset that these guys know things that they don't know. Right at the 16 and 18 level, it's very clear they don't know it. It's very clear that there is some confusion as to what you're saying, and there is a communication barrier. And I think for a lot of times at the junior level, we take for granted how mature they are, how prepared they are. And a lot of the times, I think they've gotten very good in their hockey careers pretending that they know what the coach is talking about. And it really, I think, sets your mind correctly that they're not really confident in what you're saying to them. They're not fully understanding what you're saying to them. And there's a lot of teaching that still has to go on. And I think going back to youth hockey from junior hockey was a great experience for me.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I'm sure that a lot of those conversations for you as a coach in those teaching moments come from you love analytics. And that's something that I love as well. And I love diving into that side of the game on Instat. And obviously it's a great program for us to use. But analytics have sort of become on the rise at the professional level over the last decade or so. So how did you first end up implementing that into your coaching style?
Yeah, I think for us, data drives everything. I was, a real huge fan of the Moneyball book. And that was before, analytics at the hockey level were really available to the masses. And then there were a lot of publicly available websites that started doing analytics, which I loved. And I'd spent too many hours
Me too.
on those websites learning and sometimes being, rightfully so, a little confused. But for us, the analytics and the data drives our decision-making process. We try to remove all the emotion out of things. And, I'll give you an interesting story of like, analytics are great, but they're not the only story. And so we were finding this year that while we were controlling the scoring chances in the game, most of our scoring chances were coming from what are the outer slot scoring chances. And we weren't winning the inner slot scoring chance battle, which ultimately the inner slot scoring chance battles is who wins the hockey game, right? The outer slot scoring chance kind of differential is kind of telling you who has zone possession. And so diving into those analytics and kind of presenting them to the team, we identified an area in which we needed to be much better defensively to eliminate the inner slot scoring chances, which I do think we did a very good job of reducing the differential in that way. The problem was on the offensive side, we made a slight tweak to like our principles and concepts, and it really involved like what we call our feet and circle guy, which is our slot player, and our net front guy, which is we call our anchor guy. And we made a slight tweak to kind of the positioning for those guys. And there was no impact at all and no improvement on our inner slot. So the PS of the story, I think, is like analytics are great. It allowed me to identify an issue. My prescription for the issue was wrong. It wasn't changing like the positioning of the players. It was probably more showing the players on video, like these are the opportunities in which we're not attacking when we have the opportunity to attack. And that's what's taking a probable inner slot shot and making it an outer slot shot. And instead of spending my time trying to reteach something that didn't ultimately work, I should have just spent my time teaching the guys like these are the opportunities that we're wasting. And it was like great, the analytics showed me, but I found the wrong solution and didn't improve a problem that we had.
Well, I know we talked about that when I came to your barn for the EHLP series, how there were just a lot of like pucks that you felt were left in that dead slot area. So was that a sign to you? Do you attribute, poor puck luck to any of that? Because if you're controlling the game in the offensive zone and you have that possession, or was it a matter of, a killer instinct that in some moments you guys may have lacked?
I think it was just simply not recognizing patterns that presented themselves. I do think one of the issues was a lot of teams changed their defensive coverage this year. A lot of teams adopted a box and one coverage. And in order to attack the inner slot, you have to attack it in a different way. And we were not doing a good job in recognizing the pattern in which this is the time in which you attack there. These are the times in which you would try to look for maybe an outer slot shot or make a possession play or try to take somebody one-on-one. So I think it was an adjustment to a lot of teams changing how they were defending in our league. Once again, we play the same teams over and over and over again. Interesting. We're used to them playing a certain style, and a lot of guys just were used to like, they have the pattern recognition because they've already played those teams already. And now the positioning of the players is different than what their mind has previously remembered, and to re-break those patterns was tough. And I think hopefully that was our problem, right? You can never know. And I do think the lesson learned from me is I'm going to be less quick to change the principles and concepts, and better to show the players on video doing drills in practice that present those scenarios, so we could build those reps and I think build those connections in our brains in the game situations.
So do you think that's why, at showcases you guys were very strong this year. Do you think that those are reasons why maybe the teams that are unfamiliar with what you were doing had a little more of a difficult time defending against you guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think, as you know, right, we play each other so many times in the South. There's such familiarity. You get to learn the offensive guys' tendencies. You could game plan around offensive players. So you can have the matchups a lot of times even on the road where you can get the players out there you want to get out there. Showcase, a lot of times, everybody's really coaching the showcases, I think, very different than a regular season game, right? Everybody's trying their best to showcase their players. Who do I need to give the ice time to? Maybe veteran players. Maybe, hey, I got to sneak this guy a couple more ozone starts because there's scouts here, and I want him to put up points. So I do think there's a pretty significant difference as we go in and try to coach a showcase game as opposed to a regular season game, which is going to determine standings, which is going to determine playoff seeding, which is going to determine, hey, can you get to the championship game?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned getting it a little bit more hands-on in terms of the analytics side and building it more into muscle memory. But is there anything else you learned about how to communicate this new language to hockey players? Because I know a lot of our guys, they look at like some of the basic stuff on Instat, but they don't go into the advanced stuff.
Yeah, I think for the players, some really want it. They do. They enjoy it. They like it. Other guys, they're just not interested in it. So you have to find the balance of, I think, showing the players our style of play, our principles and concepts are being reinforced by the data and the analytics, right? And as an individual player, I could take you as deep down as you want to go. And other players are like, no. I mean, there's other players that are very hesitant to even look at video, which I think is a huge mistake in this day and age. The ability to, within 24 hours, watch every single one of your shifts is an incredible resource for players, but there seems to be an apprehension. The other, I think players are probably in this day and age more open and willing to watch it with their peers and their teammates, and less open and willing to watch it with the coaches. And I just try to break that cycle of fear with the players and say, I already saw that happen. I'm not mad at it. I've already seen this play happen. It's not like the first time I watch it, oh my God, I saw it happen in real time, right? So I think there is still some reluctance on the players to adopt fully the data and the technology that is at their fingertips. And we have to, I think, walk that line carefully, because you don't want to get a full rejection of that by players that have that apprehension.
100%. I love it. I love analytics, so I love what you're doing over there with that. And we could talk about it all day, but I want to shift focus.
Agreed. Yeah, I know. I see people's eyes glaze over all the time. I'm like, all right.
I live for it. Yeah. I'm on Insta.
You are the still the minority in the hockey world. So that's great. Listen, to find somebody to be able to talk about that stuff is great and interesting. But I do know most of my experience with players and even coaches, there's still yes, there's the analytics, there's the data, but there's also what my eyes are telling me. And a lot of it is trust but verify.
Do you have a preferred stat or something to kind of break the ice with players that gives them,
I don't. What I really focus on is the expected goals thing for players.
Yes, 100%.
And just say our whole concept of playing and the style of play that we play is to win this expected goal differential game, right? And if we do that on a daily basis, the wins will take care of themselves. What is the process to making sure that we win the expected goal battle? And the big, really you're gonna be able to
analytics too. Yeah.
Sorry, they're gonna bark until the person leaves. So what we really focus on is the 5-on-5 expected goal battle. Okay. And what are the ways in which we can influence positively the expected 5-on-5, goal battle, the differential there. And what are the things that will almost doom us in that differential, right? Turnovers low in the zone and our defensive zone are really, really costly, right? So we highlight those hey, this was a turnover, what we'll say is zone 1 turnover, very, very low, really hard for the rest of us to recover, to defend against. We want to avoid those, right? Neutral zone, right? These are the neutral zone turnovers that are really, really costly. right? So these will create rush chances, talking about odd man rush chances against. We don't want to give those up. These are the type of plays that would create those odd man rush chances against. We want to avoid these plays. Force pucks in the O-zone, right? We talk about that a lot. Not making a risky play in the O-zone as opposed to keeping possession can create breakout chances against, which can create rush chances against, which can create high number of expected goals. So you don't need a lot of shots to have a high expected goal on a 3-on-2 or 2-on-1. So those are the things like we really, really break down in the analytics. Once again, a lot of guys' eyes glaze over on that. So it's really just showing the video to say, okay, this is not a turnover that we can survive. So let's get rid of these turnovers from our game.
100%. It's all about breaking it down. I love it. Getting into this past season, chronologically going into the year with the double championship in the rearview mirror, do you think that created any pressure on the guys coming in? And do you think the returners feel that pressure more, or the new guys knowing that they're walking into such a strong culture?
I think both, and I think that's what allowed us to be so successful. The guys knew that pressure was on. They accepted that pressure. They welcomed that pressure. They knew teams were going to give us their best shot every single time we played them. And it allowed us to have a focus, I think, in September and October games that most teams don't have, right? They're still working through the kinks of everything. They're still trying to figure out line combinations. They're still trying to figure out roles. I think for us, a lot of that stuff was identified early on based upon the number of returners, based upon the number of guys that we were graduating from our premier team up to our EHL team who had been with the program for 2 years already. So I think for us, we had a huge head start on that, and the guys embraced being the champions and what that meant and the type of game you were going to get from your opponents on a nightly basis.
Oh, you said it perfectly. I mean, that start 13-2 with no shortage of goal scoring in the first 15 games. How much do you credit those returning guys at both levels for setting the culture for the new guys and, returning with a championship pedigree?
Yeah, the great thing was that the championship for all the players that they had won, that they have the rings to prove that they did it. It gave them a confidence that probably doesn't exist without winning that championship and going through the difficult path that both teams had to go through to get to those championships, right? They were the underdog in, a number of series. There were no expectations that they were supposed to win. We believed we had the right teams to win those championships. So they developed the confidence, and that they started the year with that confidence of knowing they'd been through something really difficult that not a lot of people got a chance to experience. They came out on the positive side of that experience, and I think we're very, very prepared and actually eager for the mindset of like these teams are coming after us every single day.
Yeah. I'm sure there was an exciting prospect for the guys to feel like, like Conor McGregor used to always say, like, everybody's coming for you. And for you, you look at the individual guys, and Alex Haar is a guy who went through everything, for your organization, from, the P and 18s level to a champion at the EHL level, an all-star this past season, scoring, creating goals with Ivan on the college stage. So how did you see his game elevate year to year? And, given what he showed you, especially in the college series, how do you expect him to make that transition to a great NCAA program?
Yeah, the most rewarding statement that was said to us by multiple college coaches that saw him was they loved his game away from the puck. And it's something we've always preached to all of our players, that you want to make yourself attractive to NCAA programs, be incredible away from the puck, be incredible with your positioning, be incredible with your detail, be incredible with your work rate away from the puck to make sure your team is going to get the puck back. And so that is, over the course of Alex's career, we saw incredible growth there. He could always score, right? When he came to us as a 16-year-old at P, by the second half of the year, he was scoring at a level that he was scoring at AA his whole life. So there was no doubt for us he was going to be able to score. at this level of hockey. It's how far could he progress his game away from the puck, and was a top penalty killer on our team. That was, I think, first or second. I think we finally caught at the end of the year. So regular season penalty killing rate at the highest level in the league at the EHL level. He was a leader there. So we're really, really excited that a player can have an identity coming to our program. And Alex Hart is a unicorn. I don't believe we're ever going to have a 16-year-old come to our program and stay with our program until he ages out and then goes to a college program. I don't think that's just going to be the world. That previous experience for players is they're used to jumping clubs previously. So for them to get to juniors and stay with somebody for 4 years, is their mind is not going to be able to wrap their heads around. Their previous experience doesn't dictate that. So incredible for us that we got a player and we got to see the progress of that player over that time and develop into, like you said, a guy that can still score and a guy that's a really, really good offensive player and a catalyst offensively, right? He's not a guy that relies on his teammates. Like, he's a guy that goes and drives play and drives the play for his teammates on the offensive side, but is also incredible on the defensive side. So it's really easy. When I get to say to guys that don't have the ability to score like Alex does and drive offensive play, I'm like, but he's our best player without the puck as well.
Yeah.
So what does that say you should be doing and focused on? Because you're not at this present time with your skill set, with your experience, where you are in your development cycle, you're not going to be a guy that drives play offensively. So we should really, really focus on these areas of the game that you're going to have a significant impact on your team on a daily basis and obviously lead to wins in the long term, which we do know, like, there's a lot of value on playing on a winning team in terms of commitments.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. So there's still a lot of reasons for players to, even if they're not getting the offensive production that they want, to be good away from the puck.
Yeah, and you mentioned Har's journey and how his loyalty to the program, and maybe he's a bit of a dying breed in modern day junior hockey. But I think to a guy like Tyler Branish last year, who spent a ton of time with your program, being in and out of the guy in his middle year at the junior level, and Elbrecht you brought up as well. Like, a lot of these guys have stuck with the program. Does that help the argument, in quotes, when you're in this recruiting battle during this time of the year?
Yeah, listen, anything can help for sure in the recruiting battles and showing the success of players that have trusted you and you have helped them achieve probably what was the primary goal of their lives to that point of their lives. So we're very proud of our ability to help those players. We're very grateful that those players, with all the multitude of options to go try to play at, that believed in us, believed in our process, believed in our organization, and stuck with us and got rewarded for doing so.
100%, and it shows when they move on to college, but when they're in this league and they play in the college series. We mentioned what Har and Kulagin did, but Dom Bertolino was probably the best player on the Mid-Atlantic team this past season. Tyler Branish was a huge part of the win over Elmira, the first time beating a top 10 program at the time. So why do you think your players are able to shine on that stage and find success when it's still early in the season?
I think in a lot of those instances, our players in their age out year have seen previous players as a guidepost or goalpost for success. What did those players do their age out year? How did they come prepared? What did they do in the off season? I think, and there's also like a culmination of like being in our program and getting really, really comfortable and really learning a lot of things about the game that then they're able to apply in their age out year. If we look at all those players we're talking about, like, just look at their production, right? How their production changes throughout their time there. And there's nothing better for us as coaches to see them perform at their best on the biggest stage. I couldn't be more excited watching those games. I was on the bench this year for the All-Star games with the main All-Star team, and see Alex and Ivan play so well, was incredible.
100%. And I'm sure, you guys always feel this way in the South, and I do too, that it is the most battle-tested division when all is said and done. And when you look at it, 330-plus win teams in the division, one of the teams that made the Frozen Finals, made it this year. You guys won it last year. So, and also the scheduling, right? It's a lot of home and home, back-to-back. So with that factor and the amount of tightness and just in the games themselves, is that a good taste of what's to come for these guys for NCAA hockey?
For sure. Like it sets them up to understand that grind. There's divisions now in NCAA Division III. I think they're playing like 6 non-league games, right, in their schedule. And you play 26, 25 games. Every single game matters. Every single second.
Schedule right there.
Right. That's South. Like we know, like every single, and I try to say that to them, and like they're looking at you like you're crazy. It's September, and you're telling me every puck matters. I'm like, this could be the difference between a first seeder, a second seeder, a second seeder, a third seed. And that's true. That's how it actually happened. The great thing about talking about how difficult the South is and the battle testing the South, the year we win the championship, the Bears win first place. We're the second place team, right? They get knocked out by PHC. This year, we're the second place team. We get knocked out by the third place team, the Bears, and then the Bears return the favor and beat PHC, which was the first place team. So all you need to know is look at the playoffs for the last few years, and the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. The year before that, right? Philly Little Flyers just catching fire with their goaltending and upsetting you guys. And the Bears too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so it's great during the regular season. It really is. Like it really is fun. Looking into those weeks, planning those weeks, practicing, game planning. It is not so fun in the playoffs because you do know the margin of error is so razor thin. We lose a double overtime game, and then we lose 1-0 the next day. That's it. Season's over, and you're in shock, right? But going into it, it was going to be that. There's nobody should, if they were saying they thought either team in our series against the Bears had a significant advantage, you hadn't been watching.
Yeah,
the games all year. They were always very, very close. Analytically, eye test, all those things. And a lot of games in our division are very, very close. Maybe the score doesn't always indicate it, but they are actually analytically close.
Yeah, I love it. As far as the production on your team goes, your D-core was extremely productive, probably amongst the highest in the EHL. Troy Mulholland, Defenseman of the Year, Jack Naparalski, in the Rookie of the Year conversation. 39 points and 45 points respectively. Forrester and Shannon both were over 20-point guys. Lenny Steiger found the back of the net more often in the second half of the year than he did in the first. So you mentioned your team's style of hockey. Do you think it was that or more the individual styles of the defensemen that enabled them to be such big factors in the offensive numbers you had this year?
Well, we try to recruit skilled defensemen, guys that have puck skills, guys that have awarenesses to jump into plays, to really be active members of the offensive side of the game. And that starts from the D zone, right? Like we're just not telling our players, like, just get the puck and get it out. Like we want guys to make plays. There are times in which we are going to have to deal with some turnovers that I think are byproducts of the way we want to play, right? And then letting the defenseman know they have the green light to be aggressive. They just have to be making smart reads, like understanding time of game, understanding score of game. Those are the things that have to be, I think, taught and focused on. But the mindset is we want you to be a big part of our offense. We want to find players that have skill sets that are really, really good skaters, guys that want to shoot pucks to the net, guys that want to, be very, very aggressive in defending. We don't sit back and defend. We're like, a lot of times we have our defensemen skating forward. So those opportunities create turnovers and then jump into plays. I think for defensemen, it's a great way to play, right? Like, and we're going to accept sometimes, and a lot of times, if a defenseman gets burned, as long as they made the right read, hey, it happens. Like we're playing super aggressive. You're gonna get beat sometimes. It's up to your other teammates to pick you up. And also, we're not going to win every single game 1-0. So we got to score some goals.
And when you look at the defensemen in the NHL that do it so effectively on both sides of the puck, Devontae, Jackson LaCombe, or Sider, do you think when guys at this age watch those guys, they want to play more that hybrid style where they can do it all?
Yeah, I think, we're all stealing from the highest levels of hockey, right? So like the kids are watching that, and they're mostly watching highlights. They don't watch hockey like we did, right? They have so much other things to do in their lives. We had nothing. We had, the ESPN game of the night, and you were going to watch that. And, maybe if your parents were being nice to you, they let you stay up and watch the West Coast game for the first 2 periods. So they're more watching the highlight packages that are on YouTube and on all these social media, but they are noticing these types of players making these types of plays. And then all of a sudden they got the opportunity to make that type of play. And there's an excitement off of that. And that's the biggest part, right? Like giving them the ability to make those plays, having success with those types of plays, letting them, not feel so bad about the hyper aggressive plays that go awry, right? Like it'd be really, really easy to be like, oh my God, that was terrible. It's like, wasn't great, but we're going to live with it because I believe 9 out of 10 times you're going to make a better play on the aggressive side, and we're going to win, vast majority of those types of battles and plays. So, it's twofold: letting them enjoy the success and also not dwelling on the failures that are bound to come.
100%. And I do want to talk a little bit about the internal promotion that you guys had this year. We talked about the external from E to NCAA, but I mentioned Elbrecht earlier in this interview, but Chris Erasmus, a 2-year guy at the premier level, lit it up last year at the Frozen Finals. Jackson Hansen and Anthony Logerato were guys that came from outside the program from the prior season. Logo just committed. He was a guy who was playing primarily P last year, so same goes for Erasmus. So when you have that trust and you have the reward of seeing that guys that trusted the process are now moving on, how rewarding is it for you as a coach to know that you did right by guys that stuck with you?
Yeah, it's easy for us. We started as a premier team, right? We only had a premier franchise. We were told we'd have to wait 3 years back in the day to get an EHL franchise, which seemed like a really daunting task at that point of time, because while junior hockey is moving at like rapid change level that nobody ever predicted at that time, it was changing rapidly, like really, really fast. It was first time really in 15 years there had been major changes to junior hockey. And like we kind of stepped into that buzzsaw, which was, I don't know, I guess we were unaware of how crazy things were. And maybe looking back was not the best time to do what we did. So knowing that we had made our commitment to the league through the premier, I think was always going to stay with us, that the premier was going to be a significant determinant of our success at the EHL level. How well we did at premier, how well we did identifying younger players, how well we did at developing those younger players to move them up to the EHL was going to be significantly impact our success at the EHL level. And we've been really, really lucky that we've identified players that trusted us, that did not listen to all the outside noise, tell them the P's not a great level of hockey, you're wasting your career. I'm always so happy because the kids that have said that to me, I get to show them, well, what about this? What about this guy? What about this? The list is really long, right? Yeah. And then you get a different reaction from people. It's like, maybe I had it's like one of those generally held beliefs that are consensus beliefs that are simply not backed by the data, right? That we see in our sport and we see in a lot of things in the world today. And then you get to destroy that, consensus belief that is not backed by data and reality, and show the actual players that have done this. There's nothing better than that for us. And once again, it is, I think, something we'll continue to focus on. It is extremely important for the health of our organization, for that level to develop players to move up to the EHL level. And like I said, when we can get them committed to the NCAA level, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah, and it's testament. It helps the health of the league too, right? I mean, that's what when players take a chance on the EHLP, right? I mean, you have your handful of kids that are going to play there a year or two and then go off and play club, but a lot of them are banking on that call up. And if you look at the NCAA commitments this year, around 30% of those players have some EHLP experience.
And that's what I laugh when people say, well, it's not a very good level of hockey. Well, how's it producing 30% of our league's commitments, right? Which we control somewhere between, whatever, over 150 a year for plus for 10 years. Well, 30 of those guys are coming from that level of hockey. It sounds like that level of hockey is pretty good.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't sound like it's something that you can easily dismiss, but it's one of those things, like I said, because all these people will say something, the public who unfortunately does not actually do their homework. They don't. They're listening to people that have agendas that might be getting paid to say something, and then they accept that as the truth and the proof, and the data is right there in front of them. And I think we do a really good job of showing that data. And it doesn't take much digging to I think improve one's education on a subject, as opposed to listening to some social media influencer who we could say at best has questionable motives as well as questionable experience.
And your knowledge, and you have such a great staff. Your staff knowledge of this current environment is close to unparalleled. So when you see the changes, and we know it could be a week to week, day to day thing with all the changes, how do you help the players that are in your program stay on top of this process right now?
Yeah, I say to guys all the time, like, you need to have done your research, right? The research being, what do you want to study? And I'm not saying that's going to be, if you're 2 years out, what you want to study today is what you're going to want to study in a year. If you're 3 years out, but at least identify what type of college experience are you looking at. Being very honest with yourself about your academic standing as well. You could say, I want to be at an academic school. If your grades and your test scores are not at that level in this day and age, with how competitive every level of the academic world is to get into college, just being very, I think, honest and real about what the type of colleges you can go to, what you can afford is a big thing. And then having backup plans, right? And sometimes, a lot of times in my life, my best laid plans did not work out. And it was the backup plan that actually saved the day. So having backup plans, and then, being, I think, having a conversation of what ACHA looks like for them. If that's something that they're like, yeah, that's 50-50 for me, I could go other way. Well, okay, that's an easier path, right? Because there is no real, I didn't make it, or I didn't get the opportunities that I looked at. Those are, I think, easier stuff. I do prefer, though, the players that are like, ACHA for me is a fallback plan right now. I want to do everything in my power. One, I think it's just a better environment, right? Like, this will be controversial. I think vast majority of ACHA programs, players that we're recruiting to our team could jump into and be contributors to the team and grow in that team without playing junior hockey. I think the probability of any of those players jumping from their youth AAA Tier 1 programs to be an NCAA Division III contributor is like zero. It's just not reality. So if you're going to play junior hockey, I think you want to have the ultimate goal of, I want to play at the NCAA Division II, Division III level from our league. And if I can't get there, then there are these other great fallback options. Now I'm even in a better position, having played junior hockey, to go to those programs. But I also I'm fulfilling all my needs in my academic, my social, my collegiate experience, if that's the route I have to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important for us.
And you mentioned the environment and putting your players in the right environment. On a final note, similar to last season, the closeness between the two groups was always on full display. When I went to your second round EHLP game, almost every EHLer that was still in town, still local, came to the game. Some guys were still skating, and then they were cheering on the P-boys. So how much value do your players get in that environment where everybody is raising each other up and pushing each other to be the best?
I think it's we've been lucky, is that going back to our founding, our first EHL team was 70% of our P guys that we graduated off of a first year program that outperformed everybody's kind of wildest imaginations of at that time what a first year P program could do. We almost had a 700 win percentage, beat guys that have been doing this for a very, very long time, outperformed. So when those guys made 70% of that roster and that team did really, really well, that just set the whole program up for understanding that we're organizational, we're not teams. You're not on the P team and you're not on the EHL team. We're the 87s. The locker rooms are connected in a great way. You just walk freely between the locker rooms. In terms of our housing, we have guys that are on the premier team living with guys that are on the EHL team. They're driving to the rink together every day. They're working out together every day. Our EHL guys and our P guys spend as much time in each other's practices than they do in what you would just label their own practice, right? Most of our EHL guys, especially our European and our Eastern European and our Russians, they love ice time.
Yes.
So if they have a chance to practice twice a day, they're always going to practice. So those guys are staying behind for practice to practice with the P guys. And like I said, it's organizational, our mindset. There is no team, individual team. And we're lucky to find players that embrace that and continue to carry that forward, because that is going to be, I think, a differentiator for our organization going forward.
Couldn't agree more, Matty. I told you that this year after your season ended, that it was one of the best groups to be around no matter what. I mean, got the extra time at the college series, how much time I spent South this year just being around those guys. You could feel it. I was very fortunate, and I'm sure you feel the same way just being around those guys is awesome.
We've been extremely fortunate to attract really good people. I wish I had the recipe for that, and I could just say, like, we can clone this, and I know that's not true. I just hope to continue to be lucky, and I hope that our alumni continue to be, I think, the light for people to look at, to say, oh, like, I know this kid that played college hockey with Alex Haar, and that kid was an incredible teammate. And when he goes back home and he tells, oh yeah, I got this great teammate, Alex Haar, and he played for the 87s, that kid's now going to look into the 87s, because he wants to be surrounded by people like that, and he wants to interact, and he wants to be in an organization with people like that. I know those guys will continue to do that at the next level of hockey, because they've done it their whole lives. And that's, I think, how we continue to get lucky, right? And
hopefully some more luck ahead for the upcoming.
I'll always rely on luck, right? So
yeah, why not? Thank you so much for your time, Matty. It's always great talking to you. And
thank you. I will look forward to seeing you over the off season, and obviously, before you know it, we'll be back on the ice.
Sir, I'll see you soon enough. Thank you, Matty.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at EasternHockeyLeague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.